Right, let's try that again. Okay, it's block 853421. You're listening to the one and only Art of Freedom here live. I'm currently in Wales preparing to head over to Nashville to join my fellow artists in an amazing celebration of art, creativity, and freedom. Sadly, today, Flo won't be with us as she is currently on a plane. There, she just sent me a picture of her in seats, so she's going. But fear not, because I've got two amazing artists that I'd really like to introduce to you today if you don't know them already. So without further ado, I'm just going to head straight into it. We have the one and only Petek. How are you doing, Petek?
Hey, Rebel. Oh, hi. I'm good, thank you. Thanks for the awesome intro.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how are things with you? You gearing up and ready now for Nashville?
Yes. Well, unusually, actually, because normally I'm always doing this last minute crazy rush, and I'm a bit more prepared this time. So, but yeah, I'm based out of Cape Town, South Africa, and I've sent my artwork over there, so it's all. I think it's being delivered tomorrow, actually.
Excellent. And then all ready in time for it to go. I've seen it.
Yeah.
It looks stunning.
I'm
We're
so
going to
excited. I'm excited for us all.
it's going to be an incredible event this year. There's definitely
Yeah.
a certain amount of hype around it. And I should also introduce the other artist we have on today. He's not just an artist, though. He is a true historian of Bitcoin art as well.
Mm.
A good friend. And if there's anything I've had to, well, a lot of my education, Bitcoin art education, has come from reading his writings. So I'd like to introduce the one and only MLO Martin Lucas Oskachowski. I think I pronounced that right, Martin. Apologies.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on, mate. How are your preparations going for Nashville at the moment?
A little bit delayed. I just came back last night, and heading out already tomorrow. So let's hope for the best.
Exactly. Yeah, I think when the kind of global outage due to the Windows kind of crash or whatever it is, that was kind of like, oh god, here we go. But yeah, I think like it's all now back on track. I think we should all be okay and ready to
Yeah, I think so.
get some art. So first of all, I think because this is the art of freedom, we do like to get to know our guests on here. And there's some listeners that not just in the room as well. And thank you very much for those that are joining us in the room. Really appreciate it. But those that listen afterwards as well. I know a little bit about your story because the story is what's really important here, not just through our art, but yourselves as well. So we're going to start off with you, Patak. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into art and then how that led into Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I know I've always been artistic, always been creative, like literally all my life. Um, but it's also like I can't imagine being on this planet if I can't be creative. But it came from my mum, actually. My mum was always very supportive of me being creative. Like she spotted it very early on. But also, she was a hobby trader. She was like a housewife hobby trader. So she taught me how to read trading charts and indicators, technical analysis indicators and stuff like that.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing. So that's a really weird and not
I
weird
know, right?
necessarily, but just like kind of very different set of skills there that you've picked up, and obviously then that influenced your work.
Well, uh, honestly, like back then when I was a teenager, she would waffle my ears off about this stuff and she would show me how to do it on like back then it was like Yahoo Finance was like the most wow thing you could use. And I would sometimes hear her talk to her bank manager about, stocks and shares and stuff. But she would waffle my ears off about it because it's actually the only thing we never argued about when I was a teenager. And I remember thinking, why am I listening to this stuff? I'm the creative one. My other sister is the, you know, the numbers one, the one who's good with numbers. And I always wondered, okay, I'll just listen to it, And it obviously has shaped me, and then I became really passionate about it when I actually when I discovered Bitcoin. I became very passionate about learning the cycles and how to read the charts, and then that's how I came across Plan B's stock to flow model. I approached him and I was like, I want to paint your stock to flow model because I think it's going to be historically important one day in economics. And he said yes. So it just sort of kicked off from there. Like before that, I was working in branding and I would be producing photo shoots and things like that. And then suddenly it just all switched over, and that actually happened right at COVID. So all my other work as a freelancer completely dried up, literally sort of in the midst of COVID. And then this just took off, when I started painting Genesis, that first interpretation of his stock to flow model. Yeah.
It's a very beautiful piece, and I remember that.
Oh, thank you.
I remember that time very fondly, actually, because, well, I say COVID, it was a great time,
Yeah.
let's be honest, but it was the time where also I delved into kind of Bitcoin art as well, kind of first as I suppose, a journalist, if you want to call it like that, and that's where we had
that's how we met. Yeah.
Exactly, your first interview on 21ism.
I loved that. That was such fun.
It was great. It was definitely one of the highlights in a very tough time there. So I appreciate that. And I remember we talked a lot about around energy in your work.
Yes.
And how that's really important. Just can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So energy, I'm just fascinated with energy. Like I read about the physics of it. But I'm very fascinated about it in the context of money and also the history of money. So money essentially is just a sort of human symbol that we use, that sort of represents another form of gifting and receiving, trade and commerce if it's in business. But ultimately it is an exchange and movement of energy. And that really, really fascinates me. But what also fascinates me is like how currencies come and go and how they lose value over time, inflation, that we're kind of in a gamification rigged Ponzi scheme. Yeah, with government issued money. And for the first time we've got choice, like freedom of choice, to choose a different currency, a different type of money which has a different nature, and also rules, as in game rules to go by. Instead of being centralized, it's decentralized. So that's the first time in history that people have choice, like real choice. And I think that money shapes culture as well. So I play with that, and I play with how like how I perceive the energy of it. So coming back to the energy of it, it's like inflated money actually feels very weak. If you've ever sort of held a piece of paper, like a piece of fiat money in different currencies, you'll notice that the stronger currencies feel in your hand, they feel like you've got more clout, there's more behind it, you can do more with it, you've got more purchasing power, like literally purchasing power. And then when a currency inflates, it starts to feel weak. Like, I mean, like in Venezuela, it started to be cheap, just almost you can't even buy anything with it, not even toilet paper, as in it's not worth anything. So I find that fascinating, the perceived sense of value, in terms of energy. So I play with that in the art.
I can see that, and there is that. I would say there is that. What I love about your work is that a sense of energy and a kind of a playfulness to it as well. You can see you're having fun whilst you're creating.
Yeah, totally. I love destroying money and making it more valuable than it was before.
Exactly. The way I look at it,
Yeah.
as a Bitcoin artist, you're not really. Are you a Bitcoin artist if you haven't destroyed any fiat? I don't know.
No, exactly. Like you haven't qualified yet, right?
Exactly. I think that's for
Oh,
on the
dear.
entrance exam, isn't it? So, but yeah,
Yeah.
we're just reversing the money printer. Technically, we're the money shredders. If you want to look at it in those terms.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. But I also love your art, Rebel. I mean, let's just, let's just let our listeners also like you are an amazing artist. And I remember when you started making art yourself, and I was like, this guy's going places with his Bitcoin art. I love how you think about like how you think through your concepts and play with your symbolism as well.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That's a very kind
Yeah,
comment.
really.
And I definitely didn't ship you any sats to say that. So thank you very much. Yeah, I think I think that's what's fun about this new kind of revolution that is Bitcoin art, is that it's this unknown territory, this landscape, that we're just exploring as artists. We're looking at messages, we're looking at themes, feelings, emotions of exactly what's happening at this point in time, because it's a very important point, a very important point in time.
So pivotal. It really is a revolution, and I think a lot of people aren't even aware of it. I every time, like when I go to a Bitcoin conference, or even when I'm making my art, I am so aware that I'm basically, and we as Bitcoin artists, we're so at the heart of this really pivotal moment in history, for money, but also culture. It's amazing, actually. I feel very honored to witness it.
I agree, and I think there's no man that's better knows this as the kind of history of this point of the culture than Martin, MLO.
Yes.
Martin, come on the mic, please. And what's your take of the point in period of time where we are at the moment, in terms of Bitcoin culture? I know that's a big question, Martin. First big question. But
I thought I'm going to introduce myself, but okay, hit
I
it.
tell you what. Let's take it back then, Martin. First of all, let's introduce yourself. Who are you? Tell us your Bitcoin story, and then we'll lead up to the big questions. All right?
Then we'll lead to the big question.
Yeah.
All right.
Start with who you are. Who are you, Martin? And why should people definitely listen to you?
So I'm Martin Lucas Ostachowski, or most people know me as MLO with my initials. I've been a traditional painter before. Worked in the creative field since I was fairly young. So I started working in design agencies when I was like 14 years old. Had always this kind of side, this kind of rebellious entrepreneurial side on me. Started my first agency when I was 18 years old, and I've been basically since then always some sort of self-employed, aside from like university work whatsoever. But it was always like more in the context of economics and like design, right? Coming really to Canada, and that was like in 2012, I had really like a lot of time to reflect, and I shifted really more away from the design aspect, but really like fall into fine art, wanting to exhibit, working on body of works, making my first exhibitions. But I was always kind of there was kind of like a hole, right? Looking for like what is gonna my art be about? Like I need like a cohesive body of work. What could it be? And then it came to me like really when I was looking into cryptocurrencies, and I discovered Bitcoin, to say like, okay, now this is something which is profound, right? Like not only the currency aspect of it, but basically the whole underlying technology is gonna kind of impact all sorts of our lives. And we're gonna be using it like we're using the internet without questioning, but it's gonna be part of all of our lives. And I thought like, okay, I'm gonna have to, I want to dedicate my art to educating about that. And as such, I thought like, okay, for me, the clouds became really the symbol of Bitcoin, right? Like it's like in constant transformation. We are moving permissionless across borders. We are adding blocks all the time, so we're evolving. And just intangible values. But for me, which was the side which is often forgotten, is like, this is kind of like a social consensus, right? It's kind of like a social construct, and it has a fragility like every social construct, because if we stop believing in it as a currency, as like an alternative path, it will just dissipate again like a cloud. So with that as a theme, I started basically tackling different aspects of Bitcoin, and things like encryption algorithms, things like hashing algorithms, elements like which are the infrastructure, just to kind of visually explain and introduce people to the subject. And it was funny because having started from a more traditional art background, I was people were looking very oddly at me when I started pricing my art in Bitcoin, for instance, at like traditional exhibitions. And you could see like how people were laughing when Bitcoin was dropping and saying like, like, what do you think now, right? And it was interesting to engage how people were just like dismissing this whole technology, right? But yet I thought like this is perfect, because this is exactly the crowd I want, right, around my art, because my art is about education. So with that cloud symbolism came also like a personal side of the clouds, because I was Polish born. My family fled when I was 4 years old to Germany. I grew up in Germany. Now I live in Canada. In this time, I've moved over 33 times. So on average, I lived no longer than 1.2 or 1.3 years in one place, and that became some sort of a constant in my life. Like the sky was basically which I took with me wherever I went. I've been working, day jobs, which were like substantially traveling, basically almost like every week, and the sky was my personal red line, right? It was always with me. So this was kind of like the personal aspect to it, which kind of united then this symbolism with clouds and blockchain and Bitcoin, then with the personal side. And then as you start as an artist, you really have to talk a lot about yourself, and you start self-reflect. And it came to me like it was like this whole cloud travel theme was already part of my life before I knew it, because my very first job was in aviation. And as I moved on, I was very fascinated by basically educational aspects of Bitcoin, right? So when I exhibited, I think it was in 2018 in here in Montreal, in Canada, at the museum, not the museum, at the Canadian Center for Architecture. They hosted a little event, and they were looking for, basically crypto Bitcoin artists. And I was very exciting, because I thought like, wow, I've been doing that now for a few, it was back, 2018 was my first year when I started. I was doing that now for almost a year, and there's really some sort of like a small landscape of artists which really participated in it. So I thought like, this is going to be exciting. I'm going to be learning, meeting a lot of people. Unfortunately, it turned out I was the only one, here in Montreal at least, right? But what it really showed me is I created a generative artwork for this event, and as I created it, over the course of several months, I showed it at the event. It was well received, but then I noticed, okay, there's actually been people who've been working on similar concepts like 4 years before me, and that was like really mind-boggling, because I was like, if I'm going to spend again so much time on an artwork, I should be sure that this brings still something novel to the table, right? And that's how I entered this whole realm of the Bitcoin art or crypto art history, is just by trying to piece together, okay, what has happened before. And that was really some sort of rabbit hole on its own, because I initially started a blog post, but it was like you open up one exhibition, you discover 20 artists, and each of these artists had probably already other exhibitions, and it just developed over time to like this massive timeline. which right now is around like 500 milestones, and I have about 450 in the backlog. So it's just a massive, never-ending story of just piecing together these early shows, early artists, and memorable events of like marketplaces opening, or like basically Bitcoin art finding its way through the traditional artwork. I think that's always been the part which was the most exciting for me. Like a museum, for instance, buying artwork with Bitcoin and things like that. These were kind of the milestones I was mostly interested in, and that became basically almost a thing in itself. And I've been doing that now over 4 years, and now I'm kind of switching. I've been working a little bit on the academic side on like definitions, and one of the projects I'm working in right now is kind of like trying to find a common ground on really crypto art definitions that people can all rally around. And I've been in the past very focused on technical aspects to it, but I found that the ideology is a huge part of it, and it was always neglected in all the approaches on defining the subject. So I'm kind of started doing an artist survey and trying to see how did values change, for instance, over time when you joined the space, or what are like the core values which people see as a common denominator. And that's, aside from painting and everything, that's kind of like a passion of mine.
Wow, that's insane. First and foremost, I very much value you as an artist. Your work is incredible. It's completely different, and that's what I love. Is just when I look at an MLO piece, it has so many layers, so much depth in it, and the piece that you're bringing to Nashville as well. And we've worked with you to try on, and we'll talk about this in a bit. As a collective, but having reading through what the the actual symbolism, definition, meanings of your latest work has been incredible. I honestly, it blows my mind how you can
Yeah.
how you'd even conceptualize something like that, Martin. How do you go about creating a piece?
Thanks so much. I bring basically two series to Nashville. One is a series which is themed around the halving. Right, we had this year the fourth halving, and with that, I wanted to create a piece which basically symbolizes and summarizes all the different halvings with its parameters in a way that you can read it as a chart, you can read it as like an information board, but it's like entirely hidden to somebody who doesn't know where to look. And I was trying to build this entire painting basically with four building blocks representative of the four halvings, basically with four elements which halve in their size. And we tried to then depict all the parameters of the halvings, all the blockchain rewards within one cohesive painting, which then also has like little Easter eggs that exactly all the numbers which are in this painting um, add up to exact 210. So yeah, I guess it's you start somewhere. You have like, I just love the idea in general that art about Bitcoin, art which advocates and is basically activism in some sort, doesn't have to have like a prominent representation of the Bitcoin sign itself, right? I really love that you can work very interestingly in a layered approach and create also art which is not in your face, right? Which has, as you said, and I appreciate that comment, is layered, right? You can appreciate it from an aesthetic side, and you can come closer and then really try to kind of peel the onion and go deeper and deeper and then explore basically something. You can consume it fast just on a visual side, but you can really dive into it and spend some time with it. And that's the thing which I always strive to when I approach a project like that.
I think, yeah, I think that's the key theme here between definitely both of your art there. And Petek, it's
Mhm.
you know that kind of, it's that underlying message. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily having that Bitcoin be, and there's nothing wrong with a Bitcoin be. And I say to the people that listen as well here, you know, when I started my Bitcoin art journey, and I've still got the piece on my website, and I'm proud of it. But it was the very start.
Mhm.
It's a Molotov cocktail with a Bitcoin B on it. Yeah, and I don't think you get more obvious than that with it.
Yeah, but I think
So
that's
there's
also
nothing.
cool. I think it's cool to there's such a range of Bitcoin artists, and I love that. I really love that, how we are all so different. And there's like the art that's like in your face Bitcoin art, and extremely very graphic, as in graphic design, you know, very, very passionate about direct messages. And then there's like, I think all three of us enjoy putting Easter eggs in our work. And I don't mind if someone only discovers it like a year later after it's been
Mhm.
hanging on their wall, you know. So there's people who've bought my art, they don't even know half of what the layered meanings are that are hidden in them. They buy it because they like the aesthetics. Um, and then there's people who, you know, really geek out on that more layered meaning, and then it becomes like maybe a talking point when they've got their friends around, or you know, or it means something to them personally.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me is, that both, Rebel and Petek's, your work is like, I consider mine extremely technical, like
Yeah.
unpeeling basically just, this like, hey, this is great level, to like, okay, like let's get into the intricacies of like, the technology, the numbers, the
Mm.
core, and I think that is something which is super interesting when I look at your guys' work, is to discover that nuance in it,
Yeah, yours is technically educating, you know. So even I look at your work and I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't even know that, you know. um, I'm more like, I think, yeah, I go into the history of money. I go into the morals of Bitcoin. I play with. So I think Rebel, you and I, we love the English language. I mean, I would say that you and I, we really love playing with puns and very fond of the English language. Would you agree? And put that into our art.
I agree. I think fiat is Pollux,
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
uh, uh, and now the blank note as well is about having this playfulness
Yeah,
round your art.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree completely. Just before we
yeah.
kind of go into the collective, as I don't know, it sounds like the mafia or something like that. But just to give people a little bit
Uh-huh.
about your piece as well, in time for
Oh, yeah.
for the conference. What can they expect, Petek?
Um, so normally my work has always been abstract, and it looks like I'm painting aerial, aerial shots of other planetary landscapes. It's very, very textured work, and then there's like sort of data or charts, trading charts worked into that, or like the history, the historical chart of Bitcoin to USD. But this piece it's called Balena 1, which is to do with the genus name of the species of whales. So I'm actually doing a study of whale energy, like actual Bitcoin whale energy, like the big guys who are big, big traders, and they can move markets basically. So it's a whale tail, and it's splashing about. It's one of the first times that I'm uh, more figurative and not abstract, you know. So it's splashing out a big wave in the ocean, which is symbolic of moving markets. You know how big Bitcoin investors are moving markets, and then the actual wave is made up of lots of different international fiat money, or kind of all the main ones: US dollars, pounds, euros, ruble, yen. Chinese yuan, a few other ones as well. And I'm sort of, so like I was collecting lots of different fiat money, and you like really like looking at them closely, which is even in itself an experience for me, because I'm like, oh, I didn't know there was an astronaut on the Canadian dollar. Ooh, I love that, because I can then play with the astronaut with the Bitcoin culture meme, that which is like, oh, when moon, you know. So there's just like a subtle hint towards some Bitcoin culture in the symbolism that I used from the various different fiat money. Yeah, so it's quite a playful piece, and there's like quite a few little things hidden in there. For example, there's like a little wave of binary code in it, and that was taken from the £50 note. I must say, it did feel weird cutting that one up. So,
Yeah, but that one must have been painful.
God, it was.
I mean,
Do you know what happened? Do you know what happened? I've got no problem cutting up dollars or euros, no problem. And I mean, I grew up in Germany as well, but because I'm actually British, it's almost like it's like linked to me. I don't know. And when I cut up that £50 note, shit, my heart went, Rebel. My heart just almost like, God, it was just pounding, and I was like, what is going on here? You know, it was so strange.
Is that our
I agree,
conditioning to
Yeah,
embrace
possibly
our
cultural. Yeah, I wonder, like identity. Like I think a lot of our identity is also linked to money, or you know, so many things like, oh, I need it for paying bills or survival. Like that's the very basic, you know, attachment to money. But a lot of people forget that you can actually create more with money, create, you know, and contribute to the greater good if you embrace money from a different perspective. So, yeah. And I had to learn that too. You know, I had to learn that by cutting up money and creating art that I could sort of inspire people to think about, what is money? What does it mean to you? And also, I think so I've noticed over the time, because one of the first things I did with Genesis, I shredded some dollars and I videoed myself doing that. And that was the first time I ever destroyed money. And I stuck it on Twitter. And oh my God, people went really quite, it really antagonized people, really provoked them. The reactions were so polarizing and so strong, I had to take the video down. But once the destroyed money is in a beautiful artwork, people love it. You know, like it's still destroyed money. When they see it, in the act of destruction, they get all judgmental and lose their shit and go, shame on you, and how dare you? You could have fed a Venezuelan family with that. And I'm like, it was $3, right? And when I just destroyed it, I can't tell you how liberated I felt. It was extremely exhilarating and liberating at the same time. Like you've just destroyed a lie of some sort that you've been sort of trapped in, and you know, culturally trapped in. But so there was all that really strong, very judgmental reaction. But then when they see it in the artwork, they're like, oh wow, I want one, that's beautiful. So then it's transformed, and then it means something else, right? So the meaning and the energy behind it has transformed. You've put it into a different context. Yeah,
it was basically
that's
like
really,
going from a destruction into a creation, right? I think
yes, exactly. Yeah, true.
I think that's very profound. That extremely good, tearing down the lies and building it new truths through creation. Wonderful. I really like that. Definitely definitely writing that one down, and that might be part of a new work. So
Yeah, so that one's called In the Throes of the Current Seas. Belena 1, In the Throes of the Current Seas. So it's like, I'm playing with the words again.
that's great, and it will be alongside my work. It'll be alongside Martin's work. Martin, why will it be alongside our work? What are we doing, and why are we doing this?
Yeah, I think we were talking, with Petek and Rebel, that having, like, we discovered the commonality of having like this very technical aspects to our art, and we noticed that we often need more time and space to contextualize our work and ourselves as artists, because it is often not accessible just by looking at it, right? And in this approach, we thought like
That is so true.
it would be so important, to find like-minded artists, which have exactly the same approach to their art, but also with the same struggle that you need to explain your art, because usually people don't get it just by looking at it. And as such, we thought, how could we present it in a different shape? And the idea was like, okay, why don't we create this little art collective called Epoch 5, and give ourselves the opportunity to work more on the contextualization part, and kind of approach ourselves, or present ourselves as a collective which pursues basically this Bitcoin activism. We believe in the culture, we believe this is an important part of it, but we also like to go deeper, or not to go deeper, but like to play on a level which just requires us to contextualize, to have the space for explanation, to have the space to explain the references, so it is perceived in a way that it can be appreciated.
Yeah, and also, sorry, who's that?
Go ahead,
me?
Petek.
Might have been my own echo. Yeah, what you said, Martin, about so I actually thought about this before I hopped on here. What is it about a lot of Bitcoin art? A lot of it, there's lots of layered meaning in it, symbolism. A lot of it needs explaining, and a normie person who likes art will come along and look at it and see something they really don't understand. Although, like with the abstract stuff of mine, it can look like something else, like just a landscape. So to a normie, so I'm just calling them normies, a no coiner, it will look like a beautiful landscape, abstract, slightly, and then they'll be like, oh, that's pretty, and then they might like it just for that. But I was like, why is it that so much of our art needs explaining? And I mean, try explaining Bitcoin to anybody. You can't explain Bitcoin to anybody in just a couple of sentences. It's like when they ask you, it's like, oh my God, where do I start, right? So, yeah, I feel like together we can also present ourselves as a collaborative unit where we support each other as well as artists.
Yeah, and I think the one element which we saw is like, okay, we believe there's this tremendous cultural potential, and we strive, I guess, to a level which we consider is matching, whatever that means, the standard of the traditional artwork, right? And we really think that we are interested in fine art, right? In fine art approach of Bitcoin art, where we want to kind of use the elements of meme culture whatsoever, but like present it in a frame which is definitely more a fine art approach to it than just limited to the realms of social media.
Yeah, I agree with
Rebel, you just timed out there.
Martin. I think this is a key move.
Try.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, try again.
Okay. I
Better.
think I agree with you. Mark. I think it's as kind of Bitcoin artists, we by the nature of our craft, we are decentralized. We are around the world. Yeah. We've got Canada, we've got South Africa.
Interesting enough, it's the Commonwealth.
We've got Wales. That, Martin. There we go. We have a decentralized Commonwealth, if you want to look at it like that. But that's the nature of the art, and I think when we get together, when we see each other at conferences, and as a lot of the artists in this room can attest to, we get on. All of us get on so well, and if we're going to push this medium, this movement forward, we're stronger together, right? We can do more as together, as a collective, and so I guess this is this Epoch 5 is our experiment into that, and kind of showing our artworks as one in Nashville. Will be our first a step forward in trying to get closer to that, I think. And I got to be honest, guys, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast, and can't wait to kind of show people what we've got on offer.
Yeah, we created a little zine, didn't we? And I'd love to also in the future sort of see more issues of the zine with other artists, like to start treating it like a thought piece, yeah.
I think this is it. It's just about this trying this, starting it, and then if any other artists are interested or want to get involved in this collaborative effort, it's relatively loose at the moment. It's still being defined.
Yeah.
It's like an embryo in the womb, waiting to be born. But that's the idea: is trying something new in the Bitcoin art space that it takes the art to the next level and has a better representation of kind of where we are as artists. So yeah, give it a go, and we'll see. In the zine, I'm particularly looking forward to showing people as well. I believe we've got 300 copies available in Nashville.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's looking pretty fly, obviously.
Yeah.
We try our best.
I mean, I'm amazed that we managed to knock that thing together, actually, like from 3 different continents.
I agree. Thank you very much to Mick Sam for helping us out.
Yeah.
That was really good. But again, it was great to be part of a collaborative process, and getting your guys' different takes on it, and because it can also, Bitcoin art and just the life of artists can be quite lonely at times, where you're working in hours on your own in the studio.
Yeah.
So having that kind of background there.
Do you know what? Like, I actually, so I used to have a gallery representative here in Cape Town, and it's so hard to have a representative if the gallerist doesn't understand Bitcoin. It's almost, there's no point really, because they need to be able to talk about Bitcoin. They need to understand the philosophy and the movement of Bitcoin and how it works a bit if you want them to sort of represent your work as well. So I feel like we're still in such an early phase that we kind of need to do it ourselves for a while until someone fills that niche, because it definitely is a niche. Like, I'd love to have a PR person, sort of be able to send my stuff out to a wider audience, and they just don't know how to bloody talk about it. They can't talk about it. I had someone write an article, try and write an article about my work, and even when I talked her through everything, when I actually then saw the write-up, I thought, oh my God, you don't know a thing about Bitcoin. This is a disaster, you know? So her lack of knowledge meant that the article wasn't written correctly. That was, yeah. How do you feel about that? Have you experienced anything like that?
I think in general, you know, the idea of cryptocurrencies is still very complex, and I think, you know, I just knew because I tried in 2011 to pull a conference about, you know, this new realm of crypto art together here in Montreal, and we just faced constant rejection from galleries, you know, and looking at like prejudice and rumors, not really wanting to go deep and address these things, you know, in an open discussion, and you know, in a almost like academic discourse. They were just like, you know, just rejecting it outright. And I think this is still the case until today. In most cases, you know, people are not taking it seriously. You know, they think the currency. Then we had the whole wave with NFTs. You know, this is all elements which they don't want to understand and succeed. And I think that is something. It's a little bit of an uphill battle, but I think at the same time, you know, as art has like so many meanings, right? And I think for me, it also one of these includes, you know, we are depicting a very important shift in society, right? Like as painters were sitting on mountains and painting, you know, wars and coronations. We are basically depicting right now a societal shift where there's an alternative to society on a more technological level, right? And I think that is we're documenting here an era in time, and I think it is just with most of the things which happen in real time, you know, and art has become more, you know, hyper contemporary, if you want to, with social media, right? It is often too fast for the world to follow, and I think it will take a while to for people to understand and digest it. But I think it's going to be extremely interesting to see, looking back, you know, how traditional artwork players, which, you know, praise themselves as being contemporary, totally missed the spot on that.
Yeah, I think I don't know about you guys, but I feel that, you know, we are on the absolute forefront of. I mean, people are Bitcoiners say, "Oh, we're so early to all this." I was recently on Daniel Prince's show, and we were talking about it, and I think I come to the conclusion that if Bitcoiners think they're early, Bitcoin art is even earlier than that. It really is at the point where it's still trying to find its way. It's still open. It's still not understood at all. Um, I mean, I'm sure that you guys, how do you explain to your friends and family? Oh, I do Bitcoin art. How do you go around it? How do you go about it?
Oh my God, I don't know. um, yeah, I don't know actually. I mean,
I usually try to, if you want me to start, I usually try to explain it with the cloud model, right? Of like, okay, what is if you consider a currency, a digital currency, you know, and I take the analogies of like the cloud, how everything moves to the cloud, and as such, you know, it's just natural that a currency would follow. And I basically make art around that. But you're absolutely right; it's still not evident, and it is still from an art perspective, you know, not a movement, a widely recognized movement, right? But I think we see, you know, and we have many friends here in the chat, which are, you know, great artists, pushing basically year after year, right? This definition forward and standing their ground,
yeah,
year after year. So, you know, if you see how big of the whole space is becoming, right? How wide the art range is, and how it is basically undeterred from everything which is happening. This is so obvious that it's kind of like a cultural movement, and nothing is real for me, I think, if there's no culture in it. And I think as such, art was for me always like a tool to communicate, right? I mean, if you look at these early physical bitcoins, right, we needed to remove abstraction, we needed to make it accessible, we needed to make it understandable. And I think we're trying to do that right now with the art, but just on a different level and in more depth.
Yeah, I think meaningful art makes you feel something, or it provokes you into thought of having a new perspective about something. And I was just thinking, well, what do I say to someone who sees my art and who doesn't understand Bitcoin, or why I paint about Bitcoin? I then talk to them about, well, you right now use government issued money that's centralized, and you don't have choice as to how that works. You're forced into that system. And think about your purchasing power and how it weakens over time. And Bitcoin does exactly the opposite. And then that, so I explain loss of purchasing power, but also shrinkflation to them, because I try and sort of, what do they care about on their daily life? What can they get with their money? And if you start thinking differently about it and choose a different money, you not only increase your purchasing power, but you can actually start buying time, which is amazing if you think about it. You buy yourself time in a society and culture which is constantly stealing time from you.
Completely agree.
I was just thinking, we had now all these.
There's
Oh, sorry.
You've muted yourself, Rebel.
I think he's cutting off a bit. Rebel, you're cutting off. I was just about to pivot and ask, because we had the time to introduce one work, Petek and I, but we would be also curious to see what Rebel is doing at this year's Bitcoin conference in Nashville.
Yes, please. Rebel, your mic is off.
Or maybe we lost him now.
For those British listeners.
Oh, better. Yeah. Hello? No, you've timed out.
Go for it.
Hello. Yeah.
It's still robotic.
You're timing out. Mm-hmm. Can you come closer to your hotspot? Well, he's being as mysterious as his piece. The piece that he's sending to Nashville.
Maybe we mentioned too many keywords which are anti-government, so now he's like cut off.
Yeah. Well, what I like about Rebel's work is that he's also playing with like the seen and the unseen elements, and so with this current piece, Rebel? Can you hear us? Well, I'll just mention it while he's disappeared. It's called Blank Note, and it's a very beautiful minimalist bank note. And I think he's done it like he worked with Polymer a bit on it, didn't he? Right?
I believe so.
Yeah. And so it's like I don't know all the details, but I do know that there's like the details sort of starts to appear when you look at it through ultraviolet light. Yeah. It's quite cool, actually. Very, very detailed. Yeah.
I think it's this. I get now a message. We have connection issues.
Alrighties. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we want to kind of summarize it, close it down, or if you want to give Rebel a moment to reconnect. Or
We can give him a moment, or we can invite one of the other artists on.
yeah, let's do it.
Who wants to chat?
We have several here. Anybody has a question?
I think we need to
maybe, or wants to come on, just give us a emoji or something. Otherwise, I'll be just throwing on friends into the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I recognize Rear and Gus.
And Mr. Hansel and Miss Manus.
How do we know if one of them wants to chat? Hello.
Yeah, Gus, how you doing?
It is a little bit fucked up because I'm driving, but just wanted to say hi.
It's great to hear you, Gus. Hi.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see you all of you guys very soon.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I won't actually be there physically. I wish I could, but I'm moving house. I'm moving house exactly at that same time. But I've sent my artwork ahead of me, and I'm hoping it will, it will represent me. Well,
yeah,
it will represent itself.
I'll try to present your artwork to collectors, to potential collectors.
Bless you. Oh, that's very kind of you. I honestly, I'm so gutted. I've got serious FOMO that I've got real FOMO that I'm not gonna be there. Yeah, I'm gonna miss you guys. I really love catching up with all the artists in person. It's always really special. I feel like it's like a family where, a rare family where we actually get each other.
100%. I think I see Rebel again doing some signs. Can we hear you again, Rebel?
I can. I am back. I'm having technical difficulties. Hopefully, you can hear me now for
yes,
a little bit. Wonderful. Yeah, thank you very much for carrying on the show. There, this is the power of a collective, everyone. Yeah, when one person drops, the other two take on. So it's fine. You're seeing it in front of you here, and thank you for Gus there, and I think Raya for jumping in as well. So appreciate that, guys. We've come up to our hour now. Is there anything else that we need to say? Our wonderful trip to Nashville, or showing our wonderful art in Nashville.
Well, we just wanted to give you the opportunity to present your work, because we tried, but I don't think we did it justice. So if you want to just quickly say what you're going to show, that would be maybe a good point to close it out.
Yeah, I get a bit weird in talking about my art, but yeah, it's the blank note. It's too much ink has been spilled, so I made a note that has no ink on it on the actual surface. Ink has been used to print money. It's been used to print news that misleads people, and it's been used to print kind of mediocrity as well. So, but there's plenty of secrets on it, and I just let people have a little look in Nashville, or have a look on Twitter, and you can have a little look at it. I'm excited to show it, and excited to show you guys as well. So
I love that.
Yeah, I think that'll do.
Yeah, really awesome.
Yeah.
Apologies for the mispronunciation with Ryer. Ryer is on fire. That's how I'm going to remember it from now on.
Do that. Don't worry, he's been called a lot worse. I can guarantee you on that. Just some closing remarks then from you guys, I think. Yeah, what are you hoping for the future of Bitcoin art then?
I think people, yeah, I'd love to see it a bit more recognized and sort of break out of its geek niche culture. Well, niche kind of area. But at the same time, I'm really enjoying that 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 niche, that it's so geeky. I love that. But it would be nice once, more and more people start to recognize that, and also that it's serious art to be collected. It really is. Yeah, you're early at the game here. I think that's very exciting for people who are into collecting art. And it's all really powerful art captures a strong cultural movement or shift in the world. And we're part of that.
Yeah, for me too. I guess more penetration on the institutional art side would be interesting. Shifting the stage, or expanding the stage from mostly conferences into a broader realm. And I think for me, maybe one note to leave it with: Rebel and I will be hosting a little walk around of the Bitcoin Art Gallery in Nashville on the first day during the industry day. For everybody who is joining early, I think we start from 8 to 9. There will be a couple of giveaways as well. And every participating artist is welcome to join. And it's kind of like a mingler for everybody who has like early access to the conference. We will be trying to contextualize and introduce the participating artists, some of which hopefully many will be present on that day as well, and will be able to meet some whales, some people who are already there for the first day, and have interesting discussions about art.
Awesome.
I think that's a great note to end on there, Martin. Really looking forward to that. And just as well, because this is Art of Freedom, to add to that as well, we are also having a pleb walkthrough as well, because it's all right, the whales and the industry insiders having their walkthrough and an explanation, but Bitcoin art is for everyone.
Absolutely.
And we're actually doing a walkthrough at, I believe, 1:30 on the Friday as well. And on the back end of that as well, so walk through for about 40 odd minutes, and then we're going to do a live then Art of Freedom there. So please, if you're attending, you're an artist, or if you love Bitcoin art, or you're a collector, whoever you might be, bring your headphones down, and we're going to do a live kind of discussion from the gallery. Won't even walk and talk
Awesome.
as we do. It's going to be chaotic. I've no doubt about that. It's going to be lots of bustle, I'm sure, but we're going to give it a go. I mean, this is what we do as artists. We try to break new ground, and having a live show from the gallery would be awesome. And I do hope you can join us there. So I think that's the end. I'd just like to say thank you very much for both of you.
Thank you,
for
Rebel.
coming on the show
Thank
tonight.
you so much.
Absolutely.
And thank you for covering for me. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing you, Martin, on, when was it, Wednesday or Thursday? And Petek, I will hopefully get you involved as well.
That'd be awesome.
In that live cast as well.
Okay. All right.
Other than that, everyone,
safe travels, guys. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and safe travels to the people that are in the chat that are going there.
Yeah.
And have a wonderful and creative week.
Cheers.